So the first story is the headline, "I did no work for a year and no one noticed." Now, my dad sent me this last week, and it's a piece from Layla Kazim with a personal essay confessing that she spent an entire year doing no work at a software company and nobody noticed. Disillusioned after a great manager left and replaced by someone with no real management skills, she found herself in a role that nobody could really define. So rather than raise that, she ran an experiment. I've got that in quote marks here. Stop working entirely and see how long it takes to get caught. Her tactics were simple. She had spreadsheets as camouflage, a few padded emails, the occasional PowerPoint knocked up a few minutes before her weekly one-to-one, and she was never found out. She left of her own accord a year later. Now, the piece draws on David Graeber's concept of bullshit jobs. Roles so pointless that even the person doing them can't justify their existence. And Graeber estimated 20 to 50% of all jobs fit that description. And a 2015 YouGov poll found 37% of British workers felt their job contributed nothing meaningful. Kazim's conclusion is damning, really. So modern work is just theatre. Perceived effort matters more than actual output. I should also say that this article has come up in conversations with a few CEOs this week as well. So it's definitely done the rounds. But this proves the point that managers are key to motivation and meaningful work. But my question for you, Chuck, is what about the personal work ethic here? And also, could you do this?
Let's get into the first part first. The work ethic, when you said she did no work, but it sounds like she did a little bit of work, which what you described seemed like some previous colleagues of mine at places that I worked, where it was just enough.
Yeah.
Just enough to put in there. And I think to your point, it does show a connected and engaged manager would notice this. And so clearly that is the case here. When you ask if I could ever do this, the easy answer is to be like, no, of course not, Jenni, and I have all of this. But I've tried to really reflect on it. And I was thinking through some situations where, yeah, but that's not, I would probably be doing a bunch of other things. Mm-hmm. But if somebody could just do the bare minimum and still get paid, and that's all they really care about, I don't know, maybe they feel like they've earned that right. I'm not sure in practice this would actually be something I could do, but I could rationalize it in a way. And when I was looking at this article, there was another one that popped up about a similar instance where this employee had quit, but their manager didn't say anything to anyone and redirected that person's paycheck into their own bank deposit and kept parading around as this other person, even hiring Fiverr freelancers to do it. It was basically like a data entry job.
Oh my God.
And they went on for this for like a year of this going on. So I wonder if it's a bigger topic of just how out of touch and the lack of connection that exists in the workplace. So the story I was just talking about, this person would actually have this fake employee log on to Zoom calls, but say like their camera wasn't working or the microphone wasn't working, but they participate in the chat. So all kinds of shenanigans are going on. I think it just speaks to the fact that this goes on, but it goes on for so long at some organizations.
I mean, I'm enjoying the use of the word shenanigans here immensely. Like, it's just, so it made me reflect on there is an ethical thing for me. Like, there's no way I would be able to do it because I'd be absolutely terrified I'd get caught. But I have had a job where I wasn't able to do the stuff that I really wanted to do or knew that was the right thing to do because of all the corporate stuff that kind of goes on. And I remember thinking, it's cool. I'll just stay here for a year and I'll just take the paycheck and I'll just do what I need to do and it'll be fine. And I did about 2 months of that. And I was like, nope, that's not where my values are. Like, I can't do it. It's just not how I'm built. But the bit in this story that I hadn't come across before was this David Graeber's concept of this estimation of 20 to 50% of all jobs fit this description of just being utterly pointless. And that, I feel like no one's talked about that for ever in terms of the padding that's gone into corporate life and whether any of these jobs are actually having a difference, or are they just different kinds of jobs? I think that's some of it with knowledge work is you've got peaks and troughs and stuff like that. Maybe that makes it harder to make them make sense, sort of in that full-time, consistent perspective. But
I do think that the jobs have changed. I do think that. But there's this other data point that I think is worth digging into as well, and it really speaks to the fact that so much of work that people do is theater. There's a little bit of performance to it, where 88% of remote workers say they actively go out of their way to look busy. So there's things that, whether it's consciously, subconsciously, whatever, this sounds more conscious than anything, of we're being rewarded with busy, not being rewarded with productive.
Yeah. And
efficient.
And I'm hoping that is the shift. We spoke a few episodes ago about that question about how many hours are you spending at work, or whatever it was. I was like, that's a stupid question. And it's that same thing of, it's about the time, not the output. And I'm really hoping that does shift